Welcome, the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Tommy Swagnetz, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Dicker Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Getting it really pisses me off.
Do you remember when he was stumped at 100 minus 85 or something? I forget. It was like a simple, subtraction. He got stumped. It was weird. It was funny because he's just full of shit.
Talking about a while ago, right?
Yeah, this was a while ago. This is like back when the whole Ring of Fire thing was going on.
Yeah, 19 minus 15. He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's what.
That's fine. Listen, that's fine. I could deal with that. That's a little simple. But when he sits there with this stupid, let's do it together, and what's the mass, and what's this, and what's that, and we got to calculate. And then QE comes in and says you're going to calculate an illusion. Like, come on, right from there, if you just can't be real with yourself, say, oh shit, what the heck am I doing here? It's an illusion. Then I got no use for you. And then in chat, talking all this stuff, just gets me angry all over again.
Yeah, but the 90 minus 15, he couldn't get it, could he? Because that's the Sextant argument. He couldn't do that math because that debunks his view with the Sextant and the 90-degree angle.
Where's all the mods today?
What's that? I didn't hear you. Come back with that.
I was asking where's the mods at?
I don't know what you did, Hart, but we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Top 10.
Good morning.
How's things in California?
The weather's great. People are great. Politics, that's a different story.
I say the people are great that are not Democrats.
I said people.
I said people too. They're great, except if they're Democrats.
No, that's why I said people.
So where are we going to go this week?
Well, nowhere. The 8 housekeeping questions keep us pretty well grounded.
So where are they going to go? Since
Nowhere.
calculating an illusion doesn't seem to trigger anything in them to say, what the heck am I doing here? What else is next?
I would engage where we're going by our opposition who's mentally insane. Doesn't matter where they go. They're not making sense now.
Yeah, they're not making sense because their argument is on the. They're not ballers. They're not flat earthers. They are anti-flat earthers. That's why.
Yeah, your microphone just went from loud to very low. So I don't know what you did there, but I missed the second part.
I'm getting a phone call. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, you can't have an argument with anti-flat earthers. They ignore all proofs and valid arguments. There's no way to move forward in a discussion when you run into someone like that. You just say, all right, well, that was nice talking to you.
Okay, Tense, here's my thing. When Virus is saying you just look and you see straight, and Nathan keeps going over it with him, welcome to Flat Earth. What is he not processing?
That's what I'm saying. You just move on forward. You can't deal with a person who can't process straight in relationship to an argument he's been in for a few years, which he knows what that means. Because if it's straight, then it's not curved, it's not dropping away. It's what you see. It's straight. There is no drop. He already admitted a radius is a straight line. And he's already sees that the GP of a star or a sun to the observer is a straight line called a radius in their own books, in their own language. It's not anything we put there. It's a zenith distance measurement. The zenith of the star is over there, 3,000 miles away, with its very own GP. That zenith distance measurement is what the sextant is giving you. And it's called a radius to you. And he's already admitted that line is straight. So how can you have a curved Earth where you deny 8 inches per mile square at every given point? It's no longer curved. If he doesn't want to process that, let's move on. Let's forget him. I mean, I can't deal with people like that.
You see, the problem is, though, he stays in the chat talking nonsense.
No, that's not a problem. That's his job. And let him talk all the nonsense. It makes us look good and him bad, and we keep moving forward. And they keep staying stuck in their denial.
Yeah, I guess just got to let it go. Sometimes I start engaging with him in chat while I'm listening to, the Uncut and after shows over the weekend, and then I'm like, what am I doing? It's just a waste of time.
It is. It is a waste of time because he's past the point of dialogue, conversation, to where, if he made a mistake and ever admitted it, we'd have something. But if he never admits a mistake or concedes a point, well, what's the point? He's just here to, like Tokyo Rose with the propaganda to the GIs with the loudspeaker in World War II. That's all he is, Tokyo Rose.
Well, you had the billionaires going into space over the weekend, right? Or was it right before the weekend?
I didn't watch it. I saw a headline for it, but they just went high up, from what I understand, like the other billionaires.
Did they say anything about seeing Earth as a ball? I thought I heard something like that.
Don't know. I didn't watch it, but that'd be news for Neil deGrasse.
I want to start dissuading people from doing that, which is saying Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't see the curve of the Earth from X feet. What he means is you can't see the horizon curve in a meaningful way at a given altitude. But the horizon's not Earth curve. So it's like, okay, well, ask Neil deGrasse Tyson what precisely? Whether or not we can see Earth curve. Well, the Earth curve that he's claiming to be Earth curve is a physical geometric sphere edge, otherwise known as the horizon. But that isn't Earth curve, right?
Who's break that down a little bit, because I think I know where you're going.
Nathan, no matter how many times you go over it, they still do it anyway. It's like they're not understanding it.
Well, our own side aren't. Righteous Force heard me make that argument with the Black Swan for someone arguing that they could see the horizon as Earth curve from altitude. I'm like, Black Swan? And he went, did you just use the Black Swan for someone claiming you can see Earth curve from a high altitude? I'm like, it's the horizon, right? It's the same argument. But that hadn't occurred to Righteous Force. And he's like, oh yeah. So it's the same exact horizon? Yeah. Likewise, when we used to say, oh, well, if he's claiming you can't see it from up high, what are we measuring down low when they say it blocks stuff? Well, now we say the horizon's not Earth curve. Don't argue at all about it, because it's not Earth curve.
Yeah, but that's their camp with the split view, right?
Regardless of their view of whether or not you can see Earth curve horizons at altitude, or you can see Earth curve edges blocking stuff into the distance on the ground, the horizon isn't Earth curve. It's been debunked as a physical geometric sphere edge limitation to your view to block boats and buildings and cause clocks that we see to become not clocks but mirages of clocks, and to cause Chicago skyline to not be Chicago skyline but be a mirage from behind the reified physical sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve. We've debunked it. Now they're telling us, as you were discussing and I was listening from the kitchen, well, we look at it and we see it straight. Well, that completely invalidates every argument they've ever had ever, because they've got atmosphere, sphere-shaped air always. And no, we're not just looking at it and seeing it straight. As soon as you say that, welcome to Flat Earth.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, but you just did it too, Ten. I think that's what Nathan's getting
No,
at.
it depends where you're coming from. That's why I wanted him to clarify it. See, when I read the books I'm reading on the sextant and navigation, they have something called the geographic range, and they do believe the horizon is Earth curve. And that's why I put that whole thing last week up, because they have light coming in from a lighthouse at a certain height, and then they got a ship from the other side of this so-called Earth curve, and they have tables and they have all kinds of things. So to the navigators, the horizon is Earth curve, okay? To the navigators. So that people we're talking to, they're saying the horizon isn't Earth curve. Okay, well, we got a problem here, because if you're going to say you live on a ball, then you're going to have that hump in the middle between you and the lighthouse, as the navigators say, and they have tables for it and adjustments for it. Now, it doesn't exist, of course, but they say it does because of the limitation of your eyes. So they take what your eyes can't anymore deduce due to diffraction and compression and distance, and they call that Earth curve. I think I'm tracking, am I?
You're tracking correctly. You've shown us some of those presentations, and they show you a globe beneath your feet, and then essentially, as a mariner's guide, suggests that you can't see the light from a lighthouse because the curve of the Earth's getting in the way. That's what they say. Now, don't get all shocked and shaken. That is precisely what the Earth curve claim is making. That is the claim of Earth curve. So it's not exactly a shock when we find standard rhetoric that claims it. It seems shocking. It's like, well, look, they're denying it on the anti-flat Earth side now. But look, I found where they say it's Earth curve. Yeah, it is claimed to be Earth curve. There's no two ways about that. The fact that anti-flat Earth people are saying, we wouldn't expect to see it, because they've dug into the archives and found rhetoric that says, oh, well, here you go, here's how it isn't really Earth curve. And that's only there should it become a problem. And once it stops being a problem, well, we just draw a straight line to it. We just see it again. Because it's not a problem anymore. Your problem of not seeing physical Earth curve as the horizon wasn't a problem when it was not Earth curve and beyond the limits because it's refracted. But now we don't need to make that argument, so now we just draw a straight line because we can acquire one whenever we want if we should need to on a flat plane and then call it a sphere after back calculating how we'd have done it on a sphere when we did it on a flat plane. So they can just pick and choose whichever part of their argument that they need to utilise at any given time. But at the moment, they've been tied because of 20 months of anti-flat Earth rhetoric. We can't see Earth curve. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. The horizon's not Earth curve. It's not geometric. We wouldn't expect to see geometry. Those are the rebuttals we've had for 20 months. So as soon as we say, how'd you get a straight line? What are they going to do on the anti-flat Earth side? The people who actually argue with us on a regular basis, they've got absolutely nowhere to go. They can say, well, you just get a straight line. But unfortunate for them, welcome to flat Earth is what I will say when they say it.
Right. There's paradox in all of the writings, whether you're a glober or an anti-flat earther. I don't know if anti-flat earthers have any writings, but let's just assume they have some. There'll be paradox because none of the base understanding is there to be validated through reality. So they're going to want you to believe something, and then when it comes time to, what's the word, vetting it out to see if there's any proofs in it, that's when the paradox begins. So when you look at the mariners who are using the sextant, they're using it on the flat plane. They're using language that describes a flat plane, and yet all the time they're drawing pictures that you're on a curved Earth. It's like, guys, can't you see it right here? I mean, it's right here. There's no way this drawing could work with what you just said. So everyone who pushes a false narrative is going to have a paradox. If you have the truth, you won't have the paradox. You won't say in one chapter one thing, and then the other chapter the exact opposite thing that nullifies the previous chapter.
And the problem with letting people run riot with a paradox is they may very well be in cognitive dissonance and unaware of it. And if they are unaware of it, they'll end up drawing pictures of boats with triangles to do triangulation that makes absolutely no sense when it's got a circle below it that they're claiming to be a sphere. It just looks ludicrous.
That's right. That's exactly, I mean, you just pinned it. That's exactly what we're seeing. It's like they either have cognitive dissonance and they can't see the error, or they actually are, bat crazy. It's just
never had us all over it until now. So, 5-6 years, however long we've been doing this, just not hassled them. And some of the stuff that you've produced has been coming out while we've been covering the subject. So you go, oh, clearly there's no overlap between mariners, triangulation, and flat Earth, even though they're very much intertwined, generally speaking. You would assume all of those things would mean people would go straight to the sextant. Took 6 years, now we're here. Where'd you get a straight line on a globe with atmosphere? Answer, you don't. Welcome to flat Earth.
Yeah. Quick death. There's another quick death. It'll be coming. I mean, I've mentioned it already, but I'll wait till it presents itself, and then we'll go over that other quick death.
Fading facts. Got something up your sleeve?
No. It's. I've already mentioned it. I've already said it's the quickest death to the globe when it comes to the subject of
another one.
Well,
another one.
Well, no. I mean, for their model to exist, there has to be a couple of givens, and this is one of those givens that doesn't exist.
I see. You're waiting for someone to state it as a given before you pull the rug from under them and go, that given that you're stating in your rhetoric when talking about a sextant on a sphere may be a given in your mind, but isn't ever acquirable, correct?
Correct. And I've already said it. I've already, it's not anything I'm hiding. It's something I've already said. But it's like anticlimactic if I just bring it out now. I'll just wait until someone brings it out. So wait a minute. For that to work on your model, this has to happen. And this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody will step right into it. Don't you worry about that.
Oh, they already have.
And it's got to them over the last week. Several of them have stepped up to actually attempt to start talking about the Sextant. Excellent. That's just what we wanted.
That's what we want, because now they're going to go talk about every video I've seen, everything I mean, people are sending me stuff from our side. They go, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I presented that. Even when I do new searches, I keep coming up with the same videos I've been watching over the last 18, 20 months.
Yeah, same here.
There's nothing. Yeah, so it's just
nice.
like, okay.
I come across a video and I recognize some of the slides and I'm like, that's the video.
Yeah. So the point is, they're going to have to go to their own books, just like we did. And voila. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Year of the Sextant.
Right on.
Yeah, and it's going to drive them right back to the Black Swan.
How you doing, George?
There's only one place it can take them to. Is that?
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked but for the fact that we had the Black Swan giving us 20 solid months of them telling us how we don't have a straight line, there is no geometry to acquire on a sphere, it's always atmosphere, there's never no atmo day. All of those things are going to really come back to haunt them, and they already are.
Yeah, you can't turn away from all that 20 months of denial, and now you bring one of the greatest inventions for navigation, and it debunks every bit of it. I mean, the credit also is the way you break down Muppet Vision too, Nathan. So remember, everything they do to put the little deception on even the mariners is through that Muppet Vision. And complicated math that, it's okay, we already did it, it's in the book, just go by the procedure, the methodology, so you don't have to do the minutiae of the math. And it's already enough minutiae the way they've got it, let alone having to go through it and say, how does that work on a sphere? That doesn't look right. Because none of the pictures look right.
Yeah, cut to the side-on orthographic view, otherwise known as Muppet Vision, picture of a globe with a triangle perched on top of it.
Doesn't look right. So it's wrong there.
It's not quite right.
This is circle of equal altitude. The language, circle. Okay, not a sphere, but a circle, the two-dimensional circle you draw on a flat piece of paper. Circle of equal altitude. I'm somewhere on that. I just don't know where till I do another one, and they cross. So I got another circle of equal. What does equal altitude mean? Well, what does altitude mean in mariner's language?
How high it is?
It means 90 degrees. It means zenith. It's all about the GP. That's all that means. So I got an equal anywhere on that circle. I'm the same distance from the GP of the zenith, the 90 of. What's a 90? Oh, a right angle? Oh, so it has to be a right angle. How did you get that on the curved surface? 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 7,000 miles.
They don't. Game over.
Flat.
You just look and it's flat, replies the anti-flat earther. Yeah, welcome to Flat Earth.
Yeah. And they don't get it. They don't want to get it.
Well, you ask Virus where you get your straight line from, he says your vision. Like, if you would have said that one more time, it's like I want to smack him to wake him up, you know? Sometimes you got to smack somebody to knock them out of their delirium.
I gotta remember, somebody, I can't remember who, told me that it was useful. Now, that's why I got so frustrated with percent, because having, or being armed with the information that, no, having the fundie deny it and go round in circles with the winning point being stressed over and over again, by the 10th time it's gone round in that circle, for some people it's actually sunk in. In other words, it's useful. Being told, oh, this is a crapshoot, I don't like it, because you're going around in circles. Like, yeah, we are. But for those of you who watch the argument and see it get summarised potentially with Arwin and then it being ended, if they come across a fundie and he just flat out denies it, they might. The whole point of that is to cast a shadow of doubt in your own mind when you're making the argument. Well, he's just denied it and reasserted that you can just look and get a straight line. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, if you've seen somebody who's gone around in that circle 10 times and get more and more frustrated with the person as they say, the light coming into your eyes bent, but your vision's straight. Like, that's a complete contradiction in terms. If the thing I'm looking at is Chicago skyline and it's claimed to be bent up from behind a sphere edge horizon we've debunked as Earth curve, then that's the light going into my eye, which you claim on a sphere is always bent, never a straight line to acquire, never no Atmo day. Where'd you get a straight line? Well, the anti-flat Earth reply, I just look at it straight. So you go round and round and round. But if you're hearing that, like I say, you're going to say, hang on, they've told us that everything we're looking at, that's with our sight, has got a bent line to it because it's refracted through the atmosphere. Now that we're actually utilising geometry to measure and make our way around the plane that we live on, we need and must have straight lines to things, including the horizon. And if we haven't, we can't perform the maths. We require pure geometry. That's how the tool works. And when you point that out to them, they say, yeah, that's how the tool works, so we just use the straight line that we've got. You haven't on a globe. We have on a flat plane. Welcome to flat Earth.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of dip correction, right?
Make it geometric as opposed to optical? Yeah. You're taking it down to the geometric level for your triangulation, so you've got a straight line between you and the GP of the star, and then the angle and the vertex that you make at the point that you're measuring it, and then a straight line down from the star to the GP, making your triangle, giving you a radius that you can draw in a circle around that star to figure out where the hell you are. That's how it works. That's how it's done. It's done on a flat plane. There is no two ways about it. It can't be done on a sphere, because when you take it down to the sea level or the ground, you're taking it to the point of geometry, straight lines, not bent.
Yeah, and we've already, at least I have, shown in the Air Almanac as well as the Nautical Almanac, part of your sight reduction tables is refraction tables, which they do have. Of course, we know from the horizon to 15, 20 degrees, they suggest you're not doing anything there because of all the, stuff in the air. But anything above that, the corrections are so minute that they're given in minutes. Bob, the science guy, he put 1.5 degrees on his chart. He could have meant something else, maybe a minute, but he had the degree symbol next to it. So it's so slight that when I pulled up Birch Navigation, it's 1 nautical mile is all you would have been off, maybe 2 at the most. And as you get to the zenith, there is no refraction. Now think about the glober who has to realize that in order for a sun to give a GP correctly, there is no refraction when it's directly overhead, and ever so slight up until the 15, 20 degree mark above the horizon, to where there is a table for light bending, but it's in minutes. And a minute is not the same as a clock, like, well, what time is it minute? It's a unit of measurement between what's within a degree. So if you've got 30 degrees and 31 degrees latitude, between 30 and 31, they measure that in minutes and arc seconds because they need to be precise. Where are you in that 60 miles? Okay, well, where are you? Each minute is a mile. So where are you in that 60 miles? And they even got it in tenths of minutes instead of seconds. So as a unit of measurement, they have the minutes. So it's so slight that the refraction that you do, depending on if it's 40 degree or 50 degree or 60 degree altitude that you spotted, is very nominal. So we're not avoiding that, ballers, but it's not much.
Negligible, not nominal. Nominal means appearing in name only. Negligible means a very small amount.
Yeah, and they even say it in their own books that it's very small amount, very negligible. That's why it's in minutes and arc seconds.
Yeah, so light deviating from straight to a small degree, negligible, is a thing. Light does deviate from straight, aka refract. However, on a globe, they've got terrestrial refraction, air bending through sphere-shaped air, light bending through sphere-shaped air always. Well, that means never a straight line ever, as the tool requires. The end of the road.
Yeah, now we'll see what they do with the truth. It's truth coming out of their own publications from people who are in cognitive dissonance saying we live on the globe, but here's how the tool works. And then when you see the tool can't work on that globe of theirs, are you going to stay in that cognitive dissonance? Or are you going to come out of that cognitive dissonance? Or are you going to turn into an anti-flat earther?
And round in circles. In other words, it might be the thing that forces you to be a flat earther because you end up chanting about how it works on a flat plane whilst still holding your sphere belief.
Yeah, and it's amazing the comments that I do catch, not that I spend the whole weekend on this subject because I don't. That's why it's nice to catch up on it on Monday and see something coming over Master-B or, one of the channels I'm on, is here's their response to you, Nathan. Well, just watch any video on the Sextant. Yeah, that's what we did.
That's exactly it. You've said all along, I've got all of this information from Globers because there is no flat earth sextant use manual. It just is, by definition and use, a flat earth tool, and that's what they're describing.
Yeah.
That morning when this was months ago, when you first started breaking it down to me, I was like, wow, this is big. You're talking distances that are flat. How are they going to get around this?
They're not. I mean, we know it's called sea level. We know water finds its level. So it's no big surprise that the GP and the radius of that GP to the observer's GP is also level and flat, horizontal, straight. It's no surprise to us that water doesn't bend.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Brian's Logic, the Adam Meakin, Neil, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, everyone. Hey, good morning.
Hey,
Good everyone.
Oh, I love a good enthusiastic start. Let's see how well we get on with housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Nope.
What creates the horizon?
Not since the Black Swan.
I would say your vision creates the horizon, to answer your question, Brian. I'd say it's an optical effect that gives you a true horizontal, depending on how much foreshortening you've got, i.e. how low to the ground you are. How's that for an answer?
That's good. What you're saying is that with distance, the things become unresolvable.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the lens creates the
Your
horizon.
eye, the lens, same. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you, Nathan. Not anything. There are other factors, but the overreaching thing that defines if you're using cameras or whatever, where that horizon will be is the lens itself. So you've got magnification in there that'll adjust it a movement, but that's kind of adjusting the lens. That's changing it. You know what I mean? How everything works. So to me, the defining thing and the fundamental thing, you can have variance around it, is the lens itself and its position.
Right, because the thing that's going to define your diffraction limit and your what do you call it, visual occultation, also, or more accurately, sorry, Brian, described recently by Flatsoid as foreshortening, something we've covered 2, maybe 3 years ago in great detail. If you want to know more about this subject in great detail, then check out myself, Red Pill Philosophy, Ranty Flat Earth, and Life is Short, who did a very extensive presentation, mainly the work of Life is Short, if I'm ruthlessly honest, who's one of my Patreons. Big shout out to you, my friend. But check that out, because that goes into it in tremendous detail. But over time, it's obviously got more concise. And although we've got Brian here, and I know he's currently making videos about this, Flatsoid isn't, and I'm going to shout him out because his video was excellent. Just detailed foreshortening. Once you get it, which was done in a very concise way by Flatsoid, you're like, yeah, I get it now. Not that I didn't before, but, you know, for those of you who hadn't necessarily even heard the term being used. So, yeah, it is ultimately speaking the lens that's going to dictate all of these parameters. So the foreshortening effect, that's an optical effect. It's a resolution-based limit that you're going to see at the end of that. Well, that's all down to your eye and the lens. That's how you're going to work out where it's going to be. So when people get out a big camera with a big lens and can see further, yeah, that's why. They've increased the diffraction limit. So you've got a further point in the distance that you can resolve information with a zoom, shockingly. So you can see further. What a shock. Well, that will push the horizon further.
I thought Brian's
Did you say
video
Randy
the other
Flat
week
Earth?
was fantastic on that. You know, with the little
No, he didn't, Neil.
black marker. Sorry.
Which was
Yeah, carry on. No, give Brian props
Well,
as
I
you're
did
moving it
notice
away
they
from
were
the
quite-
camera. Go ahead, Adam. Just finish that thought
Yeah.
and then let Brian
Well,
respond.
just in showing that, it kind of gave the example, but for me, it showed how stuff does shrink as well. There's this additional effect. I just thought it was really, along with P-brain stuff, I think it was one of the things that really highlights and demonstrates what we're talking about with Brian's, the way it sat there. Now, the bit I wanted you to do, Brian, is just do that, and then if you just lower the observer height that little bit, you think it wouldn't make a difference, but because it's going to make a massive difference, because suddenly the angle that you change reduces even more, because the observer height plays a part. And I thought, okay, your demo demonstrated stuff shrinking beautifully, and how it's not just linear as well.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks. Yeah, no, that's the one where I added in the angular resolutions for at those sizes and distances. It show like the
I
closer
checked
your
that
eye.
maths, by the way, Bri. Correct. Yeah, I did check.
Thank you.
I couldn't help myself.
Well, I used the calculator, so if it's wrong, then it's the calculator that's wrong. But yeah, no.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate. The closer your eyes are to the surface, then the sooner something will become unresolvable. That's just so higher you are, the further something will become unresolvable, because your angle to it has changed. You're not looking at it in a horizontal then. When you go higher, something you were seeing in a horizontal, you're now seeing as an angle, as opposed to horizontal. Horizontal is 180. You're seeing it at an angle then at that point. So you're seeing it in a different way. You'll be able to see a shadow cast by it in a way that you wouldn't be able to see from the horizontal. Things like that will help your resolution. So, but with distance, all things become unresolvable. And that's what creates the horizons. No matter what, once you're looking in a horizontal, you will always across the surface of the Earth, you will always have an horizon. No matter what camera you have, eventually it will not be able to see for only a certain amount. You know,
And that makes perfect sense.
I don't agree with P-Brain.
Oh, here
And
we
I've
go.
said this on his video.
Okay,
No.
can you, in that case, you're going to have to summarise P-Brain's position and then take it apart. So sorry to do this to you, Brian, as you're disagreeing with him.
Yeah.
We'll have this we've commented on in chat. I stuck it in, I think, yesterday or whatever. And I'm not going to disagree with Brian's, but my comment was we all see very different things in this. So when Brian's done his bit, I'll tell you what I saw. I don't necessarily disagree with Brian, but there's a great explanation in there for me for Laura Halves in his video. It's a fantastic thing. So, but yeah, sorry to interrupt, Brian. Come back to it as well if you can.
Okay, so we're going to get a summary of P-Brain's position from Brian, then he's going to say why he doesn't agree with it. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, the part I don't agree with is that he's claiming that the horizon rises to eye level, whereas that's why I asked what creates the horizon. It's things becoming unresolvable with distance. It's nothing to do with anything rising up or falling down. Your angle to the surface underneath you is always less than the angle to the sky. So what angle will become unresolvable first? The angle that's in your horizontal, not the angle that's higher up. So what's happening is that your angular, let's say the piece of angular free space that's in front of your eye, as whatever that is, like whatever that covers, whether it be a building, whatever across the road from you, if that building moves back and back and back and back and back, eventually it'll become unresolvable and it'll drop. The top of that building will appear. It doesn't actually. It will appear to drop. So if your eye line is meeting that building when you're close to it, let's say 3/4 way up the door of the building, when that building is 2 miles away from you, you're looking over it. It appears that you're looking over the top of the building. So things are shrinking in the distance. So nothing is rising up. Just because you go higher, that won't make the ground and water and the seas rise up with you. It stretches out further. So it stretches further out, and you can see further because it's stretching out further. Your angle to it has changed.
Okay, I've got to disagree. I'm sorry. If that's how P-Brain's put it across, I'm going to disagree with you and agree with P-Brain. The horizon is your eye level. Yeah, that is what is creating it. And when you say as you raise up, it doesn't affect it, well, absolutely it does, because it widens the angle.
I didn't say it didn't affect it. What I
My
said
bad.
is that it doesn't rise up with you. It stretches out underneath you further and further away. It doesn't rise up with you. This thing about the horizon rising, the horizon is not something that rises or falls. That's why I said earlier, what creates the horizon?
Yes, but pushing something further out as you raise in altitude is perceptually the same as it rising with you, Brian.
Yeah, but it's not really, because they're not making a claim of something lifting up.
I see where you're driving at. Okay,
Hold
sorry.
on,
I think the penny's just dropped, I think, Brian. You're saying when you describe the horizon as a thing that rises up, well then, no. You're increasing your angle to things in the distance, which means you can resolve them. That doesn't mean that there's a physical thing that's going up with you. It means that you're widening your angle to things in the distance, making more resolvable and forcing your vision out further. Now, in simplistic terms, that is the same thing. It's going to mean that as you go higher and the angle goes wider, the horizon's going to go further, and perceptually that's going to come up to your level as you get up in higher elevations. But I understand where you're driving at, because it makes it sound like it's a physical thing that can go up with you, and I know what you mean. It isn't.
I thought
Right, can I
that's a
say
clever
something?
straw manning from Brian there.
Can I?
The opposite way of describe, because I think both things are the same, because visually it is the same thing, but the way he's describing it is as opposed to his description, makes you reify the horizon into something physical that's moving.
Yes.
Right, this is geometry versus appearance. That's the issue.
It's linguistics, Arwin. So it's falling
Clever,
victim to the same trick, and then inadvertently respelling that trick like Neil deGrasse Tyson does. So when he slaps the beach ball and says, "You're not going to see the curve of the Earth from 2 millimeters above this beach ball," and he slaps it, yeah, he's not telling you that you're now reifying the horizon on the beach ball into your horizon that you see when you're out in the world, And both of them are the same thing, right? One's the edge of a beach ball and the other one's the edge of an earth ball. No, the horizon that we see is absolutely nothing to do with the physicality of a claimed sphere Earth beneath our feet. We've debunked that. Black Swan. So no, it definitely isn't akin to a beach ball he slaps. But when he says you're not going to see the curve of the Earth from X altitude, he's making both flat earthers and globe earthers reify the horizon into something it isn't. Earth curve. And then you argue about how it's going to behave at altitude, still reifying it into a physical thing when it isn't. So I see your point, Brian, but I don't know. It's something that I said at the beginning of the show, but I think before you got here, that I'm trying to whittle people out of doing this, reifying Earth curve into something that's different in the sky when it's the same Black Swan argument that debunks it as being Earth curve. The horizon isn't Earth curve. So therefore, as flat earthers, we shouldn't say how much further am I seeing? It's like, further than what? The physical limitation at the Earth curve edge that we've debunked. You're just seeing something. You're not seeing further than you should. And in this case, Brian, I think you're saying when he suggests that the horizon, making it a thing, will rise with you. It's like, well, no, it's not a thing to rise with you. It's much more complicated in terms of the optical breakdown of what's appearing to happen before your eyes, in terms of resolving more data as you get a wider and wider angle to something in the distance, making it more resolvable. Like you say, it's more complicated. So just saying horizon rises with you, it's like, well, no, and that also leaves you open to being attacked on the horizon being something it isn't. Hopefully that's a concise summary. If not, Brian, feel free to tell me where I'm wrong.
Well, I wouldn't. My point was, and is, this is why I asked earlier, what creates the horizon? The horizon is created due to the diffraction limit. The horizon is your diffraction limit, regardless of your optics, whether it be natural or man-made.
Hold on. You're saying regardless of the optics, it's diffraction limit. What makes the diffraction limit?
Distance.
No, the lens.
Yeah, but distance.
Right. The lens
depends on the distance.
No.
Yeah, but your distance is important with the lens. I mean, if something is close to you, won't have diffraction.
Yeah. Based on the lens, how far it will resolve. The diffraction limit.
That's what I said.
But the distance is going to be calculable based on the lens, not the other way around.
Right, there's no diffraction limit in geometry.
Whether it be optics, whether it be natural or man-made, I said it comes down to your diffraction limit. So the horizon is created by the diffraction limit. That's what creates the horizon. So it's not something that rises and falls.
Yeah, stop. Right. The thing that gives you the diffraction limit is the lens. So if you're going to calculate where you will get a diffraction limit, I calculate after the fact what distance you expect to see, it's going to be given a certain aperture size. Well, that's your eye.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That's not my point.
But it is. You're saying it's not the optics of your eye doesn't affect where you are or how high you are, but it does, because the optics of that lens will give you the diffraction limit. And how high that lens up affects that in terms of the wideness of angle.
No,
you say something here, Nathan?
What I said.
Hold on, let Brian get it off his chest
your
first.
Optics, whether it be natural, I'll say it again. Your optics, whether it be natural, which would be your eyes, or man-made, use a man-made, which is cameras, right, will eventually have a diffraction limit, and that is the horizon.
Yeah.
Regardless of how high you are or what optics you have, eventually you will have a diffraction limit, and that will be the horizon.
You're saying contrasting. It's going to bug the hell out of me, Brian. You're saying it's the optics, it's the diffraction limit, but it's not the optics. You're saying contrasting things.
No, I'm not. I'm saying what creates the diffraction limit? And what is it that creates the diffraction limit?
I think if we think of it a bit like the Black Swan analogy, where we say that the maximum distance to the horizon in their model is defined by 1.22 times the square root of the observer height. It's geometric, and we can calculate it. And you can make a similar analogy, I think, with just when we're talking about refraction limit. There's a maximum distance based on the optics of the lens that you're going to be able to resolve, that the horizon will resolve at. Now, that's only going to get less with all the other things, or more if we include height, but if we went down in height, but pretty much all the other variables, heat, temperature, humidity, all of those things are going to reduce the effectiveness of that optic. So it's going to foreshorten or shorten the perceived distance of the horizon away from the observer. But it will still keep it central-ish, won't it? Depending on refraction, but fundamentally there's a limit, and that limit is defined by the optics. Then degradation occurs through other factors.
Yeah, that's fine, but my point is, I'm not arguing with that. I mean, I'm arguing with that. That's my point, is that the horizon is created due to an optical thing. Now, it doesn't rise, it doesn't fall. What happens is that your dip to what they call the horizon will be in exact correlation with your elevation above the surface. That the horizon is at a fraction limit that is caused by distance away from your optics. So regardless of how good your optics are, I know weather and other stuff comes into it, but just keeping it simple, no matter how good your optics are, you will have a diffraction limit over distance, and that would be your horizon. Right, so it's not something that rises and falls, because Wolfie 6020 has a video, and many other people have videos on the opposing side showing how the horizon is not directly at eye line. There is a dip to the horizon.
Wouldn't the difference
the
just
horizon
be...
is not rising up, but it's just... One second, just let me finish this part. This is the crescendo. One second, sorry, Chocolate.
Okay.
Is that the surface is stretching out further and further underneath you the higher you go, because your angle to it is greater. But that surface doesn't rise. You're rising, the surface stays as it is. It just stretches out underneath you. And the horizon is created due to a diffraction limit because of your optics. That's what it is. It's not a physical thing that can rise and fall.
Okay,
So
we got it. We're going round in circles. Okay, we've got it. We've had it 3 times.
No,
Hello.
This is the big crescendo. Claiming that the horizon rises to eye level is giving it a physicality and making a claim that is easily debunked by our opposition. I'm finished. Thank you.
Gotcha. I think we summarised that in the middle, Brian. So yes, glad you summarised it again. That is the main point. Thank you. Someone from Discord before Chocolate goes was trying to get a word in the middle of that. Whoever it was, go ahead.
That was me. I just wanted to say, imagine you're standing in one place, right? And you have the frame of the camera. If you switch the lenses of the camera, you're going to have your horizon at different points. Like that horizon is going to be either farther away or closer away, depending on your lens that you put on that camera.
Indeed. Yeah, it's going to change it because you're increasing the aperture. Correct.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Nathan, that is the eye is the one that is, the angle of the eye is the one creating the horizon.
Yeah, we're all in agreement, actually. Brian and everyone, so far we're all in agreement, which I personally think we're talking about how things are described as opposed to the description being right or wrong. Strictly speaking, I'm sorry to disagree with you again, Brian. B-Brain's right, but there's a danger in the language in terms of the way he portrays it, because it sounds like it's something physically moving up, and Brian's saying the land doesn't move up. Yeah, there might be a topographical change in the distance, there might be a mountain that does actually rise up, but if you just ignore that for the time being, just for the purpose of this argument, if you just imagine that there are no topographical changes in elevation, it's just an expanse. Well, as you rise up, the expanse has remained at exactly the same bloody level. So how can you ever infer that the ground, i.e. the horizon, because it's being implied to be physical when it's described this way, is rising up to your eye level? That's just a bad use of language. No, what's happening is, to your perception, it may seem like it's raising up to your eye level, but in reality it isn't. There's a lot more to it. You're expanding out how far you can see into the distance, and that will converge at the centre of your eye line if you're looking straight ahead. So therefore you could infer that the horizon has risen up, but no, you're just seeing over a greater expanse of land. That's it. It's not rising up at all, and Brian's right. If you want to describe what the land, if you're going to physically reify it into a positional thing that's going to change in elevation, does not rise up. But your diffraction limit into the distance will be at the centre of your eye line if you're looking out into the distance of what you can resolve. Ergo, the horizon actually kind of looks like it rises up with you, but it's not a physical thing to rise. You're just seeing further at a higher angle. That's it.
So wouldn't the use of the word appears just clear all that up real quick? Like the horizon appears to rise to eye level as opposed to it actually rises to eye level?
It would solve that problem.
All right.
Couldn't we just
So that's done for me.
Hold on. The only thing with that, Chocolate, is what's a horizon? The apparent position where the sky meets the ground appears to rise up.
Yeah, I'm saying if we want to describe it that way, that's fine. But when people say it actually does that, no, well, no.
No, but it's inherent in the terminology. Apparently, the apparent position where the sky meets the ground rises up. Don't need to say that. Now, I'm going against what Brian's making as his overall point, because in that particular aspect that Chocolate's bringing up, there's no foul in the language. Don't need to add apparently. But that extra redundancy stresses Brian's point, which is what Chocolate's driving at. You know, it's not actually doing that. But most people on our anti-flat earth opponent side don't recognise that apparent bit in the definition of a horizon. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still have a physical geometric horizon that's apparent. I.e., it rises, it looks different with your elevation. That's part of the black swan. It changes with elevation when it's geometric also. So you can see beyond a limitation of a sphere edge if you rise in altitude also, geometrically, physically. And that is what their horizon is. It's still apparent. So it's redundant to say, well, apparently the apparent position, it's just not necessary. Other than the fact that our opponents don't recognise that it's not a physical location that you can stick a postcode in, it's a geometric location which is apparent for them, giving it a physical limitation into the distance, which doesn't exist beyond the maths. Anybody else got anything on this? This is still first housekeeping question. I started so enthusiastic that we maybe make it past one.
I do have a bit of history for you.
Go ahead.
After what Chocolate said, and I've said this before, and the proof of it, you can ask QE, because he's agreed with me when I've said it before. He even shouted it exactly, right? Back in 2015 into 2016, all the flat earthers were saying, because the original claim was the horizon appears to rise to eye level. The baller started saying to the flat earthers in 2016, so would you say that the horizon rises to eye level? And flat earthers started going, yes, right? And then the ballers started showing dips to the horizon sometime after that. The point is that the ballers changed the claim, and lazy flat earthers started claiming what the ballers were claiming, was that the horizon rises to eye level. That wasn't the original claim. The original claim was that the horizon always appears to rise to eye level, not that it actually does. The ballers changed that claim within debate with flat earthers. Flat earthers were too lazy to keep putting in the word appears, and ended up being caught in debates when ballers were showing them a dip to the horizon. You know, horizon dip correction for the sextant proves that the surface always stays underneath you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's just laziness.
Yeah, it's the undoing of their rebuttal. Swift, thanks to the Black Swan 20 months prior. But as soon as you say, what is it achieving when you do a dip correction for a sextant? Well, it takes it from optical to geometric. And what particular aspect of geometry are we utilising? Well, a straight line. Something you don't have on the surface for a ball. And something that is absolutely required and works when you triangulate with a star, because the surface is flat. That is how it functions. So it's geometric. Takes it down to the ground so that you're drawing a straight line to the GP of the star in geometric terms.
Have you guys already dealt with...
on to... Oh.
Sorry, Adam.
No, you first, sir.
I just want... This whole dip angle thing is not sitting right with me, because it's the whole Muppet angle side-on view of your head to calculate a supposed dip if there was no actual observer. And like Nathan was describing earlier, because it's apparent and it's occurring in the lens of whatever optical device, whether it's the eye or a camera, that center of field of view is how we experience the apparent horizon. And then as we rise, it appears to extend that we can see further, but yet it keeps the center of field of view because we're looking as a first person. But yet all these Sextant dip angle corrections are always Muppet view, looking at the side of your head, having to drop the horizon angle downward because you're raised this much above the sea level. I don't know if you guys have already addressed the first person versus third person aspect to that whole bullshit.
No, but I can do that now. It's just as easy for us to depict it in first person. That would be to have me showing the view that I get through the sextant. So I can show that there's a star on the horizon, or however many degrees, let's say 20 degrees above the horizon, and I can look at it and show that I'm drawing a straight line to the base on the ground where it is, and then cross-reference that on the map. But when I actually physically do this, even though you can depict it in Muppet vision, you are still doing the exact same thing. You're drawing a triangle from your position to the star, and you are one of the angles of the triangle. You're part of it. So, yeah, you can depict it in Muppet vision, but you can just as easily, and must be able to do it in first person, because that's how it's done.
You're not taking
in first person, it's always center of field of view.
Yeah, you're looking at the angle to the star with a straight line from your feet to its GP, and then from that straight line, an angle up to the star that you're looking at. You're physically looking at two other points of a triangle when you're one of them.
The Solar know what the horizon dip correction is. I just want to make sure that he understands that, because the Baller's version of that they've been pumping out there is not the real version.
Let's just ask him. When doing triangulation with a sextant, Solar, what do you understand the dip correction to be?
That you've got to minus the altitude or the elevation above sea level.
Yeah, done. That's it. Yeah, he does. He understands what it does.
But it's more than that. It's more than that. Because the Ballers, I don't mean this in any disrespect to Solar, but the Ballers will say the same thing, but show it in a different way. The Solar, do you understand that the vertex of that angle that's at your eye line is brought straight down to the water underneath your boat? So the bottom of that triangle then runs along the surface of the water. You understand that? That is the horizon.
Yeah, once you've removed the elevation, yes.
Yeah. So, what is it that you had an issue with that?
Just that it's in Muppet vision, and therefore it says that this line that I'm seeing in the center of my field of view needs to be adjusted downward, because in Muppet view, you are above something that can never be at eye line level with you. And therefore, you have to assume that there is this dip angle downward. And then what's been demonstrated with like infrared footage is that the horizon can appear many tens of miles behind where the apparent horizon was without infrared.
Optical let's try it this way, Solar. Let me try it a different way. You don't have to make dip corrections if you are on the ground already. So in other words, if you were at 0 on the ground and you're like, I want to get it as accurate as possible, but I don't want to have to correct for dip, well, then you can literally lie on the ground and your horizon's going to be pretty damn close, but based on the optics of your eye, you're always going to form a horizontal with them. So it doesn't matter how close it is. You just line up your sextant whilst lying on the ground to the horizon, and then line it up with the star, and then you don't have to make a dip correction. But that would still require that beyond where you are lying, and beyond the 30 feet horizon that you've formed because you're on the ground, everything beyond that 30 feet horizon that you're using to create that first angle is flat, potentially 5,000 miles all around you. No dip correction needed.
Solar, you keep mentioning Muppet vision as if it's an issue here. Is that what you're angling at?
Yeah, because if you take a 6-foot observer and you place him above the ground in Muppet vision, his eye line can never meet the horizon. He's always got to look down at even if it's a
what
very
horizon?
small
Hold
angle.
on. Hold on. There's no horizon in Muppet vision. I've got a picture on screen, guy on the boat, Now, correctly depicted with the triangle starting on the ground, right? Where's the horizon? Answer: for the guy making it, who's being depicted in Muppet Vision, there isn't one. Now, I said 30 feet. Let's pretend this is a 30-foot boat. And I say that the guy gets down into a little dinghy, so he's literally on the water with the sextant, and he does the exact same measurement, right? I said his horizon's 30 feet. That would put it here, right? That's where his horizon is, arbitrarily marked along this line in Muppet Vision. Well, if he's at the top of the boat, let's say he's taken the same measurement from up here and he's got to correct for the fact that he's now not on the flat surface, yeah? Where's his horizon now? Well, it might be here. If this depiction's got a star that's 1,000 miles away, why not? Perfectly reasonable to suggest that this is the case. So therefore, where's his horizon? Is his horizon 1,000 miles away on a boat? Absolutely not. So let's say his horizon's here. It's not depicted in Muppet Vision. That's the point. In Muppet Vision, they can replace the horizon with Earth curve. But in a flat Earth rendition, there isn't a horizon. But we just accept that. There's no horizon in this depiction. Doesn't mean that he's still going to form one when he lies on the ground and looks out into the distance. It'll just be about here or here somewhere. Just can't depict it in Muppet Vision because it's not first person. You're looking at the side of something else that someone else is seeing.
The two are performing very different functions when we translate with regards to Muppet Vision. We're trying to interpret a photograph when we do that. When we're doing a sextant measurement, we take the angle, okay, and when you then convert that into Muppet Vision, you're not. You might like to turn it into to reify that into something, but in reality, it's what Brian pointed out. At this point, it turns into just straight geometry. Yeah, you've done your dip correction, so it is now just about straight geometry. The calculating you're going to do, and it's going to tell you how far away the GP of that star is on the straight line that you've defined to get your angle by lining up your sextant and adjusted minutely your height above it to straighten that line to make sure it's exactly correct to form your right angle for your GP. That's what you do there. It might look like you're reifying it, but all you're doing is drawing a triangle and calculating based on the real world measurement you've made. And that's very different to Muppet Vision, where you're taking a picture and trying to match those things up between reality and what you think you should see by drawing straight lines onto Muppet Vision.
Right.
I think that's made sense. Thanks. You know, I was in gym yesterday and they were talking sextant the whole day. And they were saying that because the ballers all say that you've got to look down to the horizon. And as you gain altitude, you're always looking down to the horizon. But this horizon is something that occurs at the center of frame where the ground and the sky appear to meet. So it's something that's very central in terms of where it's occurring. What I've understood now is that when we talk about dip correction, it's lowering that right angle triangle down to the flat level horizon. So you just negated the elevation.
Exactly.
But the way that the ballers are putting it is that they're looking downward at this horizon that falls away from you. Like a 2015 argument where we drew the little stick man above a ball, and then he always had to look down because there was no way to look horizontal and see a horizon.
Precisely.
If there was
Notwithstanding what
bottom,
you've just said, so looking down would mean that you're looking over the edge of a curved surface. So when you make the correction and you understand how the sextant works, you're drawing out a triangle. So their correction doesn't actually achieve anything in terms of what a sextant is setting out to achieve in terms of the measurement for triangulation. So their dip correction is meaningless in terms of what's actually being done.
Just on what Solar said there when he's arguing with the ballers, they're straw manning you. They're making the assumption you have to look down and that you own. No, the sextant's there to keep and the optics are set up so that you set it up so it's straight, not looking down.
Horizontal.
When you reify the horizon as the leading edge of the ball and you're taking any observation on a ball, then the apologetics of the mathematics you're going to do demand that suddenly the sextant isn't there to be level and create a level. It has to in their mathematics dip down. And that don't let them have that. The sextant is level. It's not dipping down to a leading edge of a ball to attain a straight and horizontal plane.
Hold on, Adam. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Let me just check that Solar's just got what he's going to say, because I'm going to lead on to the crescendo, Brian. Do you understand Solar so far?
Yeah, that's making perfect sense.
Okay.
Their
so
argument
hold
was
on,
that
hold on. So if that's making perfect sense, when they tell you that they're looking down upon the horizon because it's curving away from them a ball, ask them the following question. So, where do you get a straight line then? Do you understand why that rebuttal went round and round in circles now?
Bingo.
Yeah, they just say it's locally. It's a tangent where you are locally. They forget that you're pointing the sextant towards the horizon.
Stop. Okay, what's a tangent?
Straight line.
So where'd you get a tangent? That's how I had Craig fight the flat earth over a barrel. So where'd you get a tangent? You don't. Black swan, right? We've got a straight line for geometry to the horizon on a sphere in their maths. We show it's beyond where the straight line can leave it, and they tell us all lines are bent. No tangent anymore. So now they're just going to relabel straight line as a tangent. Yeah, they haven't got one of them either. Black swan.
You can't allow them to make the horizon. Hold on. You can't allow them to treat the horizon like it's Earth curve, because we've debunked that.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, that's exactly it. When I asked earlier, I don't know if you're here or not, I asked earlier at the start of the show, what creates the horizon? And everyone agreed it was the diffraction limit of your optics, right? So the horizon is an optical location, not a geometric location. What they're doing when they're talking about the dip, they're talking about, just like on the boat, the horizon dip correction, they're talking about the different elevation between your oil line, right, and the physical surface of the Earth, whether it be liquid or solid, right? And what they're doing there, when they're talking about this, looking down to the horizon, they're taking away the actual horizon, which is an optical thing, and they're making their horizon geometric and claiming that the dip that your oil line would have down to the surface, whether it be you standing looking out at the water or at the beach or at a cliff, that line from your oil line down to the actual physical Earth, whether it be the water or solid Earth, right? They're then claiming that right, is the curve of their Earth. So what they're actually doing is they're claiming a geometric horizon when they're talking about that.
Exactly.
That's what they're doing.
Exactly. And what's the Black Swan argument about again, Brian?
How the horizon is not geometric, Nathan.
Precisely. And how did they get around the fact that we've debunked their geometric horizon, Brian? What was their response? It's refracted. What does refracted mean? Oh, deviated from straight.
Line.
So we're back to the beginning. Where'd you get a straight line then? Oh, we get a tangent. Yeah, that's a straight line. Where'd you get a tangent then, Craig? Fight the flat earth. That's how I spanked his ass.
That's what I'm saying. You can't allow them to treat it as Earth curve. Of course, it's not.
Refraction is optical, not geometric. So anything to do with refraction is an optical argument, not a geometric argument.
Correct. And if they're going to infer... Correct. If they're inferring their claim to be optical effect, they're claiming 7/6 of the radius sphere-shaped air. So you're saying, oh, you're correcting for the optical effect of refraction. Your refraction's based on our meaning that you can't get a straight line anymore, though, doesn't it? So as soon as you infer refraction and you're a ball believer talking about a ball, you've got sphere-shaped air applicable always. It's never no Atmo day. So where'd you get that tangent? Oh, you don't. Oh, well, that's game over then for you, fundy globe believer, because you require it for this tool that uses a flat plane. And it works. Can't get a straight line on a globe. It's all refracted.
So for that argument, there's only two things you need to ask them. Number one, what creates the horizon, right? Because they're going to have to be honest then that it's an optical thing, right? And number two is this dip they're talking about, right? Two, they're claimed that this geometric dip from their oil line to the surface of the Earth. Can any of them prove right, that dip, right, goes below, and say it like this, horizontal mean sea level. But then you're speaking about reality that we all see. And none of them will be able to show any evidence that it does, because it doesn't. Every horizon dip correction for a sextant is only taking your oil line from the elevation of your oil line to the surface of the water or the earth underneath you.
Yeah, I asked them if they thought it was geometric, if it was an actual physical location, but I didn't hammer on that. It's an optical versus the physical location.
You didn't need
Their
to.
point of
You didn't need to.
contention.
You didn't
their
need to.
point
You
of-
didn't need to. Hold on. You just need to say black swan.
Okay, but
You just say black swan.
but their big point of contention was that for every 1 degree that you have to dip on the sextant, it's 60 miles, nautical miles adjustment because of a sphere. And they were saying how it is that the dip angle adjustment is precisely doing what it would do on a sphere, and that we flat earthers don't understand that. And so,
Okay. So
But they
dip
spent
very
angle.
retarded.
So it's talking about an angle. That would require 2 straight lines, though, wouldn't it?
correct. Or
So when they
diverging
talk about their
straight
dip angle,
lines.
when they justify the dip angle, the moment they use that word and then follow it up by how it works on a sphere, you can ask them where they got the straight line for the angle.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, we're
This
doing
is-
a dip
this
angle
is the-
correction on a sphere. Dip angle, you say? What, 2 straight lines meeting? And where'd you get that in atmosphere? And then you can...
the year and a half of refraction.
Yeah.
that
Then
we've
you...
been told.
When they just say, we've got a straight line to it, or we can just acquire a tangent by looking at it, you whisper it. Black swan.
That's copyrighted.
There is geometry involved here. It is geometric what we're going to use to calculate where the GP is. And first we take the sextant to create a straight line which will run parallel to the geometric solid surface. Okay. Now the dip angle adjusts your angle to the star based on your height. Yeah. And it calculates it by lowering you from the relative position of the 2 parallel lines, the horizon and the geometric flat surface. Yeah, this is the assumption a sextant makes in its calculations. When you lower the horizon, you are lowering it to the surface, which is a flat plane, which is the bottom line of your triangle. You need that assumption that this is a flat plate for anything to work. And then your measurements, then from the observer, you know where you are and you know the angle to the start, and you know it's a flat plane that you've adjusted for because you're 6 feet above the water, and then you're into straight geometry. But there is a geometric element in ours, and that is the knowledge that the Earth is a flat plane.
The whole concept, if I may, of the sextant is with the dip to make sure you get the right angle. It's a right angle measurement. The GP of the sun, the altitude, the zenith, that's 90. That's coming vertically straight over the Earth. Now, the other line is the baseline. That's why they always have it depicted by the box saying 90 degrees. So if you're on a boat, as Adam said, 6 feet above the water, that's skewed. So you take the measurement to the table in the nautical almanac or the air almanac. You make your adjustment in minutes. Okay, in minutes. It's that small. And then guess what? It's now a right angle. So whenever they say it's not a right angle, they're wrong. And the right angle has 2 straight lines.
If
does that
the
adjustment?
point of bringing it down, Solar, to the water is to form that geometric line, that straight line on the flat plane. When ballers do the same dip correction and bring it down to the level of the water, they bring it down onto a bendy line. There's no point bringing it down onto a bendy line.
That's what I was trying to say earlier.
Your angles.
Exactly. I was trying to say earlier. So when you make that dip correction, what's the purpose? So you can take it down to a curved line?
So, Tent, you said it's minutes that they need to adjust for in terms of that dip correction based on obviously the height above the level surface. Does that point the sextant ever below the horizontal?
No, it's a right angle. It's a right angle measuring tool. The whole point is you need a triangle. Does a triangle have any bent lines?
No.
Okay. Can the sextant work on a curved surface?
No.
Then why does it work?
But does the dip angle point the sextant below the horizontal?
Because Earth is flat.
Yeah. Why would you
No.
say a question like that when I'm telling you
hold
it's
on.
a right angle?
Hold on, 10th. Sorry, first time ever. Neil, the voice of reason. Do you want to repeat that, Neil?
I said the sextant works because Earth is flat.
Right, take somebody to actually make the summary. We're explaining it well enough, but nobody's actually making the concise summary. Why does this work? Where do we get straight lines? Why is this functioning the way it is? Because Earth is flat. Over the 6 years, I can't remember a single other instance where I could say, when somebody asked me, what's your silver bullet? What's your magic proof? What's your single thing that is just absolutely unequivocally a proof of flat Earth? Well, the sextant is. Why? Well, because it only works with a flat Earth. It can't work if Earth isn't flat. And the way it's described is defiant of everything about the spherical surface you think you're currently standing on. So the sextant is that silver bullet as far as I am concerned. And it's very simple. And I want people like Neil to summarise that when it comes to those magic points, when it's like, well, why does it not do this, that, and the other? Well, because Earth isn't a sphere. Earth is actually flat. That's why it works.
But notice, hang on. Solar, ask me that question again. The last one you asked me.
Okay, so my point to them was that the circle of equal altitude ensures that if it's level and flat, ensures that you've got that 90 degree to the GP. And that effectively is what we're saying here, is that this thing can only work on a level surface. Correct. Their contention was that when you're dipping this tool downward to correct for the Earth curvature at 1 degree per 60 miles,
you're not.
That effectively you're going below that horizontal line. But I said to them, this tool is designed to point toward the horizon, to use that as like your flat horizontal. Then they said, no, it's off the plumb bob. So that they were trying to argue that this thing is that you're taking a plumb and then you're doing a dip correction. So you're going below horizontal to point down to a horizon.
I know what's going on. This is why I tried to get through to you in the start. When I said at the start, now give me a moment. What I said at the start is that this is why I asked you, do you know what the horizon dip correction is? Because the ballers will talk about horizon dip correction, and it'll be the same amount in distance from the oil line to the horizon, right? The same amount of altitude. But what they're talking about is dipping the actual sextant down towards the surface of the water. They're not talking about bringing the vertex of the angle from the eye to the water underneath the boat. And exactly what Soda just said a second ago, I knew this was, I suspected it, and I was right. This is what they're doing. This is what they've been trying to claim that the horizon dip correction is. You have to get them to physically show you with diagrams what the horizon dip correction is. Because what they're doing is they're taking a straight shot to what they're calling apparent horizon, whatever, straight out in front of us, and then they're calling a dip correction a person just dipping their head down, bringing the line from the straight horizontal down to the physical water or earth. That is not horizon dip correction. Horizon dip correction is taking the vertex of the angle from the eye line straight down below your feet, below the boat to the water. You have to get them to show you with diagrams what the horizon dip correction is, because every one of them will keep trying to show you a line from the eyes that goes down to the surface of the water out in front of the boat. That's not the horizon dip correction. And more to the point, with their 60 nautical miles or 69 statute miles per degree, what they're working off of there, and they're claiming it doesn't work on a flat Earth. what they're working off of there, right, is the baseline for all this use of the sextant, which is the angle to Polaris, right? They're working off of longitudinal distances. Longitudinal distances are exactly the same on curved or flat. They're absolutely bullshitting their way through this. And they're trying to confuse the matter as much as possible. You have them show you exactly what the horizon dip correction is with diagrams. And if they're not bringing that vertex of that angle down to the boat underneath and a straight line going out from the boat underneath and another line going up to the celestial body, they're not doing horizon dip correction. They're bullshitting.
Okay, but
Perfect.
to be hold on. To be in that position, you've got to whistle past the graveyard, though. Would you not agree, Brian? So they're going to take an angle to something they're assuming is below their iron line, dipping down because it's falling away, spherical. Oh yeah, they're taking a straight line to it, are they? To get the angle, are they, Brian?
Yeah, well, that's what they're claiming, the horizon dip correction.
Yeah.
I understand it doesn't work in their model.
Brian, just work with me. So they're taking a straight line to the horizon. Regardless of if they're saying it's dipping down, they're getting a straight line to it.
Yes.
What is it? No Atmo Day in this argument?
So I was going to say, where are they getting a straight line from?
So where do they get a straight line? Exactly, Brian. Neil. They're whistling past the graveyard if they're starting to argue about vertexes and straight lines and angles. Oh, yeah. So this tool is going to be using an angle. Oh, right. You don't have a straight line for that on a sphere now, do you? So why are we arguing about what you're doing for dip correction? You're going to correct to something that you've got a bent line to. This tool's using triangulation on the map. So it's going to definitely require straight lines, and you've just told me you're making a dip angle correction? That's nice. Where'd you get the straight line for the angle? In your atmosphere? Oh, you don't?
Nathan.
Can I... Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead. But Nathan, go to Master B while Chocolate says what he says. I want to talk about my last two slides, showing it on their Muppet Vision. Go on, Chuck.
Right. Okay. So I want to address a clown that I just found in my DMs. So I get a lot of bullshit DMs and advertisements and crap in my Discord. So I don't read a lot of my messages. But as I'm going through them right now, I see one from a clown named Prof. Phil. I guess that's just Phil. So apparently, and this is the first message this clown has sent me, right? So I'll read it off to you guys. Are you serious? Have you ever used a sextant? You just look at the horizon in the scope, then use index arm to line up the star, then read off the angle. Take the dip angle and instrument correction into account, and you have your latitude. The next bit comes in. I guess he got his caps lock stuck on his keyboard. So he's screaming it. That is it. No right angle, no triangulation. It does not measure distances. I have never heard so much shit spoken.
Well, here's have him come on the show.
Let me say two things.
Have him come on the show.
Oh, God, everyone shut up. Go ahead, Chocolate.
Yeah, let me say two things. Number one, they must be very stressed if this clown is going to DM me for some reason. I don't talk to this guy. Why is he DMing me about this? Right? So you guys must be very stressed about it. Your first message to me is about the sextant. Stressed out much? Number two, you said angle? How are you getting... Don't you need a straight line for that? Clowns. Weren't you the one telling us all about the refraction and the black swan? You could never have a straight line. So how do you have an angle, and how do you have a straight line to that horizon you mentioned, clown?
They're not getting the
Don't
looking
DM me.
part.
What's wrong with you?
They think you
Anyway,
just
go
looking
ahead.
into existence.
Tenth, go ahead. I'm done.
Come on the show.
Yeah,
right
come
now.
here.
Right now.
I don't do text message love letters.
Come on the
you want
show.
to come on the show? I don't know if he's listening or not, but if you want to come here and talk about it with us, come through. Here we are.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Obviously, no citations, just his imaginations. Nathan, if you go to that last slide with the...
Could we just cover what he said? Because
we can, but Tenth's waiting in the wings, and we've got about 3 minutes. So I'll go to your last slide.
Get my presentation in there now. I'll go on them.
Is it this
Flown
this
by.
one
No,
with
go
the,
ahead, Adam. Go ahead. Mine's going to dovetail off yours anyway, so go on.
No, I'll do mine afterwards because it's going back to P brain.
Okay.
Go completely sideways.
Okay, so right, as there's loads of audio chaos going on, I'm going to shout out Al Junkie. Thank you very much for the super chat. He said, "Globe-bred herrings must visit Flat Earth School." So shout out to Mitchell from Australia for Flat Earth School. Rewind the super chat. Where is it? There it is.
Yeah, the one with the blue surface.
With Sensible Horizon and Observer.
Yes. Okay. This is their Muppet Vision. We talked about this in the pre-show. This is ludicrous. This is stupidity. The Sextant can't ever work this way. But look what they got. Straight lines, just what we're talking about. So you see the observer is looking straight out. That's called the sensible horizon for them. But is it straight? Yeah, it's straight. Does it match the curved surface? No, the curved surface is curved and the sensible horizon is a straight line. Dip correction is, look at that. Look how much they give for dip correction. It's from the sensible horizon to the visible horizon. Why? Because you can never see the geographical horizon, right? Because of atmosphere, I assume. This is what they say. Okay, I'm not into that. But here you got the surface of the Earth. Now, dip correction in the sextant has nothing to do with this picture. Dip correction in the sextant is the observer with that sensible horizon line brought down to the level water surface, as Brian said. Now, just bring that line all the way down to where it touches that curved surface at a point. It's still straight left and right, but the depiction of Earth is curving away left and right. Sextant can't work without a straight line. This whole thing is an embarrassment for them. Once you understand, a sextant is a right angle measurement tool. It's a protractor, okay? And it's for the zenith distance of the star's GP to you. You're triangulating yourself to it with a right angle. When is a right angle curve? This is ball game over when I could show you pictures from mariners showing it's a right angle. Mariners know it's not this. This is ballers and anti-flat earthers here.
I'm going to show you a couple of messages from Phil as Chocolate brought him up. So Phil sent me a message after claiming we don't know how to use a sextant in the live chat of yesterday's Uncut and After show. He says, quote, Phil Bell, "You look straight at the horizon, full stop. The almanac gives you correction for atmospheric refraction. There is, in caps, no triangulation," says Phil. So, of course, I took his words and immediately just quoted them straight back to him and welcomed him to Flat Earth. Quote, "We look straight ahead at the horizon, Prof. Phil Bell. Not refracted after all, then." Yeah, welcome to Flat Earth, telling us we look straight at the horizon when we've had 20 straight months of us being told how it's all bent through atmospheric refraction. Yeah, you haven't got a straight line now, have you? Welcome to Flat Earth, Phil Bell.
This must be painful.
It appeared in his words to you, Chop, if you will repeat him, that he makes the statement "no right angle" after just describing how you create the right angle and the angle to the star. But you just read it, what he says and how you do it again.
Yep, I'll read it again. Are you serious? Have you ever used a sextant? You just look at the horizon in the scope. Then use index arm to line up the star. Then read off the angle. Take the dip angle and instrument correction into account, and you have your latitude. That is it. No right angle, no triangulation. It does not measure distances.
So he's just described there with the dip angle, which we've gone into detail, how you take the angle to the star, and that star then draws a straight line down to the GP on the flat surface. That's your right angle there, Phil. That is your right angle, right, between the surface and the star and the observer. Yeah? And you're then looking at the star, measuring that angle and adjusting for the height you're off there. The reason for the adjustment is to make sure that you bring the eye level down, so the eye across the level of the surface and then up to the star, it makes that a right angle. If you don't adjust for observer height, then that angle isn't a right angle. I know it's hard to learn from flat earthers, but there's your right angle, son. Professor, was it?
Professor Phil Bell, indeed. With that, though, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day! Debate show. Listen, the Nathan Oakley Flat Earth Debate Show. Don't you understand? They call it an echo chamber. They say
just
that
Phil
they
wants
want
to set an appointment too.
Yeah.
Well,
They say they want to boycott, but really they pay attention to what's going on here.
He can show up tomorrow. I'll be on with QE tomorrow. QE has a video that I've seen before, and he wants to go over it. So I'll be on the QE show tomorrow, going over the Sextant. So why doesn't he just show up tomorrow?
I'm surprised he didn't message you. Was it just me and Nathan?
Okay, so that would be Ball Busters you're going on
Tomorrow, yeah.
3 o'clock?
Whatever time it is tomorrow, I got to figure it out.
Eastern time? Well, make sure you let everybody know.
No, not Ball Busters, QE Live.
Yeah, QE Live.
There's a difference?
Well, it's a Tuesday show. Whatever Tuesday show is, that's the one.
It's just a Tuesday show.
Excusez-moi. I thought Ball Busters was QE and Nathan.
It's the funniest thing that they say has nothing to do with triangulation. Everything I read about the Sextant has everything to do with triangulating the stars.
It only works with angles,
on.
not triangulation.
Sorry, Owen. Adam wants to get back to P-Brain, so I've got your presented screen, Adam. Go ahead.
It's a very minor point, but I did just want to make it. If I just press play, you see the guy here and his line of sight, he's looking down, and this here is the distance from him, the X one, which is the important one. Just as if you let it run, look, he's now looking at something 10 foot away, and you can see the angle he has to it across the flat plane. Look how much the angle's changed at 40 foot all of a sudden. Yeah, massive angular change at something just that little, only 30 extra foot away. Now we're only 62 foot. And this guy's going to look at something 3 miles in the distance. Yeah. Now you can see the angle, look at just at 81 feet. I'll just let it play but watch how the rate of angular change diminishes at the rate of change really slows. Look at this now. Look at the distances and how much the angles changes. Next to naught, as we get to a mile, look, we're at 1 mile. Now look at the change between 1 mile and 3 mile. But these are teeny weeny. But the eye's taking all of this in. But this, along with resolution, these are the other things that are coming into play. Look at all the extra data in this very small degree as we get up to 3 miles now. Yeah. Between 2 and 3 miles, there's only tiny little bit of an angle, isn't there? Yet there's all that information packed in. So when we look at things like the Rayleigh criterion and resolution, there's all that where all that data is being packed and compacted next to each other or on top of each other. That's also why we lose resolution as well. It's kind of interference as well. And I hope you can see with these, the way the angles change, how the amount of data that's coming into the eye massively increases exponentially as you go those extra distances. That makes sense?
Of course. You're looking at stuff in a narrower and narrower angle. So the other day when Mitchell from Australia was out at the beach, he's got the shoreline a few feet away. But in his camera, you've got 20 or 30 foot of beach down to the shoreline. And then you've got about the same amount of ocean. So you go, okay, on screen, are they the same amount? Because one is 12 foot and the other is thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of ocean, right? Expanding out, right? So are the two the same? No. There's more information in the more limited angle than there is in the close one. Now, in terms of more information, I don't mean you can see more, because you can resolve more at the wider angle. In other words, you can see all the details on the beach, but can you even see a boat in the distance if it's beyond about 3 or 4 miles? No, it's too small to see. So there's an absolute shed load of information as you go out further. But that means it's compacted into less and less area, therefore more and more difficult to resolve as you reach that limit. And what is the diffraction limit? The limit where it hasn't had interference, where you can resolve the difference between one pixel and the next.
Right.
Sorry.
So can I say something? Sorry, I just got
Yeah,
that.
go ahead, Darwin.
What it basically comes down to is that things you see into the distance, they compact like a fractal would, like a Mandelbrot. As you zoom in, more detail is revealed, and you zoom further and more detail is revealed. And that's kind of how sight effectively works like that as well. It becomes more compacted the closer you get to that horizon.
That's exactly my point. That's what I've been making a point of in my videos. The angular free space between, let's just say, on screen there, the guy's eyes and the surface underneath, that angular free space becomes unresolvable because that area becomes too small to resolve. So it gives the impression that he's looking directly at the surface, but he's not. It's just that area is just too, that area between his eye line and the surface has just become too small to resolve. There's no way to resolve anything underneath from his eye line down.
Nathan, if you want, I put my favorite quote about not being able to resolve something from a Glober in Master B.
Do you want to read it out, Chocolate? Go ahead.
No, I put it in Master B.
Where is it?
Is it not there?
No. One anticlimax. Oh, there it is. It's just appeared.
No, let you talk, bro. they can't help
Indio,
themselves.
unorthodox Indio.
Oh, that was India?
No, we can't tell.
Yeah, that was Indio. Dude.
Unorthodox in Indio. Unorthodox in Indio.
Yeah. So, how does a boat disappear in 500 feet when the globe model predicts the horizon is 2,600 feet away? So, what's blocking the boat if it's not at the horizon yet?
See anything blocking the boat. I see the resolution. I see the camera being unable to resolve the boat.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Welcome to Flat Earth, my friend. Snacks to the back, bathrooms to the left. DJs taking requests, and smoke them if you got them. Welcome, unorthodox.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.